Hi there. I'm Jen Smith, the director of the Grow New York program. What makes the Grow New York competition unique is the geographical and economic region in which we operate: Central New York, the Finger Lakes, and the Southern Tier. Together, they make up a region that boasts an unrivaled, connected body of agriculture and food processing systems. It's ripe with support and partnerships for food and ag startups and is recognized as a hub for innovation on a national level. Finalists in the Grow New York business competition must make connections within this ecosystem to explain during their pitches at the summit event in November how they will make a positive impact in this region. The tradition of growing, making, moving, and selling food in the Grow New York region is long-standing, responsive, and forward-thinking. That's where our competition comes in. By attracting innovators to the region and leveraging the resources and responsiveness of established players, Grow New York creates opportunity. We put this program together with the active input of the Food and Ag Working Groups for the Regional Economic Development Councils in Central New York, the Finger Lakes, and the Southern Tier. We couldn't do our work without their active support, and we're grateful for their participation. In the next 45 minutes or so, we'll talk with a few experts on the agricultural and food processing resources here in the region to showcase those resources for you and hopefully stimulate your ideas about how you can take advantage of those resources and thrive right here in upstate New York. Thanks for watching.
Hi, my name is LINDSEY PASHOW. I'm the Ag Business Development and Marketing Specialist for Cornell Cooperative Extension's Harvest New York team. Harvest New York works in sectors of dairy processing and marketing, local food distribution and marketing, urban agricultural, farm-based beverages, and emerging crops. We are a statewide program. We work to develop educational programs that increase agricultural investments, profitability, and sustainability. We also work to maximize connections in research and resources of Cornell University and Cornell Cooperative Extension. And we respond to emerging opportunities, assist with workforce development, and business expansions. I'd like to introduce the three panelists that we have and have them do a little bit of an intro of their background. First, I'd like to introduce Mike KREHER.
Hi, I'm Mike KREHER, and fourth generation farmer, KREHER Family Farms. Our farm is primarily an egg farm. We do everything from organic to conventional egg production. And we also have a large crop operation to grow the feed for those chickens. It's a diversified crop operation and includes primarily organic acres. So as part of that rotation, we also grow vegetables as part of our rotation with grains for feed for the chickens.
Next is Sheila Marshman.
Hi, my name is Sheila Marchman. I'm a professor at SUNY Morrisville, a professor of agriculture business. We also have a 7th generation dairy farm located in Oxford, New York, where we milk approximately 450 cows and we crop about 1,200 acres.
And our final panelist is Eben Kennedy.
Hi, Eben Kennedy. I've been with Wegmans 28 years. I'm in the produce department. I oversee all of our organic farming operation and all our partner growers on the East Coast.
Mike, since your farm was established in 1924, there have become many changes in society, including emphasis on different growing methods, including conventional and organic, consumer trends such as less people canning, more prepared food purchases at grocery store. The two questions I have are, how has your farm become innovated from with the changing times, and what has been the timing and process of these changes over time?
Well, you're absolutely correct about how there's been a dramatic shift through the generations of how people consume food and where they're getting the food and how they're consuming it. And so we've had to adapt our farming practices and what we're growing and producing to accommodate that. So even on the egg side, for instance, when we were primarily at one point growing chickens, so a hatchery, this is not for egg production, but growing eggs, hatching them, and growing pullets for other egg farmers. As the industry shifted there and how retailers are purchasing eggs, we then moved into egg production. And then as our egg production expanded and how people sourced feed changed, then we moved into grain production. So that happened over a couple of generations. And then the change in consumer patterns started to accelerate, so that the rate of change increased. And we had to change with that as well. So as we started to scale up our own conventional production, consumers wanted things that were more organic. And so then that's when we moved into organic crop production. We were also able to look at sustainability efforts, so taking waste manure and turning that into a fertilizer for our organic crops. And then from there, looking how we can address the changing needs for more local vegetable production. We were producing for frozen, such as Bondwell, Bird's Eye, but then as people are moving towards fresh and prepared foods, then that's when we started to shift our production to do more of that. So it's been the first series of changes happened over a longer period of time, but then over the past 10 years, the changes have been coming more rapidly. And so then we've just had to adapt and work with some of our partners and customers accordingly.
Sheila, what is the story about agricultural innovation in the southern tier of New York?
I think the story lies within the culture of our family farms and our farm families, as they are the root of the southern tier. These families are as committed to their businesses, their land, as their employees, and the consumers, as were the generations before them. I think it's important to mention that our family businesses embrace innovation to ensure the long-term viability and success of their businesses and their family.
Thanks, Sheila. Eben, when it comes down to Wegmans, what is Wegmans looking for innovation when it comes to partnerships and startups?
Great question. As we start to think about our relationships with our partner growers, and we have 28 organic partner growers that work with us through our organic farm and all the institutions like Cornell University, we're really trying to tell a story. We're trying to understand what is the opportunity that's out there and how can we find that opportunity. We use our organic farm as a place where we can learn and develop, but also think about, does this particular idea come to life and is it valuable to a grower that's out in our region? So I think we spend a lot of time with innovation, as many of the panelists have already talked about, and really looking at the different opportunities that are in the area to tell this unique story about how food comes from the Finger Lakes region in New York State, and how do we bring that to life so the customer's excited about it and can make a connection with it. And a lot of times I see with a lot of startups is they're thinking about the technology, thinking about the innovation, but they're not connecting that to the consumer. And I think that's what we do at Wegmans. We tell the story. And if it's a great story, I can sell anything. If it's a weak story, it's very difficult to sell a product. It takes a lot of energy and effort. And so then it also relates to the flavor profile. And as you start to think about vegetables and fruits and so on, what's that unique attribute that can bring that product to life so the customer says, wow, I want to buy it again.
Thanks, Eben. So my next question is from a dual question with Mike and Eben, is how has innovation led to the establishment of your partnership with Love Beets?
I think it starts with actually when Love Beets first came to the U.S., they came to Wegmans first and said, they're a company out of England. They said, we'd love to sell our marinated beets at Wegmans. And I said, that's kind of a cool idea. And that kind of moved to a broader discussion about how do we grow the beets regionally, and so that we can produce the beets here versus grow them in England and then put them on a container ship and ship them over here. So that's when I think the engagement with the KREHER family farm and said, how do we move forward with this beet production? So with that, I'll turn over to Mike and he can take the story from there.
And so that's where the culture of innovation locally has been important to us. So we were able to partner initially with a conventional farmer who's used to growing beets conventionally. And they showed us how to grow beets, and then we were applying our organic growing knowledge to that. So that's how we started to grow the beets. And then Love Beets was happy to see us progressing And they wanted to engage us further on that and share their practices with other growers in the region and partner more closely throughout the whole supply chain so that we could have increased local production. We could work together with Cornell to look at different varieties of beets, what was a sweeter beet, a tastier beet, ones that had more disease resistance, grow better in this region. So it was a fantastic collaboration with all the resources here, the different farms, processors, Wegmans and Cornell, to look at are we doing the best practices we can? Are we using the best varieties that we can? And throughout the supply chain, what are we doing to maintain freshness and quality all the way to the store shelf?
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Evan. I have another question for Sheila. How does the current generation of farmers balance tradition and innovation?
So I think with the original question, something I wanted to include about the Southern Tier is that the roots of our agriculture heritage are really the foundation of our workforce. And much of our workforce in the Southern Tier is third generation removed from the family farm, yet they share the same work ethic, commitment, and sense of community as did the generations before them. And so now to answer your question about how the next generation is embracing technology, as I mentioned, really the culture of the Southern Tier is based on generations of traditions of farm families who have changed. And I'll just take as a personal example, at one time, our family farm, which was established in 1856, was once a chicken farm. And today we are a dairy farm. And I think that it's exciting to see the technology that our seventh generation is currently implementing to ensure success for the next generations to come, which will be the 8th through the 9th generation.
Thanks, Sheila. I want to open it to the panelists to see if you have any additional information you want to add about innovation in Wegmans or the region or your family farm, Mike.
Yeah, I'll jump in quick. I think to talk a little bit what Sheila's talking about is innovation, but really in the technology growth of the sector of agriculture is, especially on the organic side, and even maybe on the conventional side is much more. But from the organic side, it was more a mom and pop industry, and now it's becoming more mainstream. So we're bringing a lot of different technologies into the arena to make sure that agriculture from an organic perspective is changing, and is changing as fast as the conventional brother or sister of this. And so, we're really involved with Cornell University in understanding what kind of technology can make the lives easier for our growers and those young growers out there. Labor expenses keep going up and up and up. And so technology is that buffering that can also allow you to be profitable and be more efficient, but still continue to grow organically. So that's a very important point, especially to the people that we're talking to that are talking about innovation and technology and how they're going to change our industries. It's important to us to understand that.
And something else I'd like to add on that is that whether it's the Southern Tier or throughout the Grow New York region, our world-renowned institutions of higher education are part of our culture and our success. So, for example, the SUNY system is dedicated to research and applied education, and combine that with our land grants mission of changing the lives and livelihood of New York residents. Really, those institutions combined are incomparable to anywhere else in the world. So I think the partnership that we have with our institutions of higher education is what makes our region so unique and so innovative.
I agree. I think it had the addition to that, the partnership and collaboration, it's in the blood of this region. So if we look just beyond, we have the universities and the higher education institutions that work together, how they then share that knowledge with the farmers. And then we have the collaboration even between the farmers. As I mentioned, our neighbor helped us learn how to grow beets successfully and got us into that. There was another neighbor that had a device that was used for weed control that was essentially electrocuting the weeds. We saw that in a previous season. This season, then, we were partnering with Cornell to do trials of that on our fields to see how effective it could be against different weeds, and then sharing that with other farms in our area so that they could also see the effectiveness and if that would be useful for them. Another example is on the Wegmans Organic Farm, how they collaborate not just with Cornell, but then out with their partner growers, looking at different varieties and growing methods, and then sharing that with the farms so that the farms can be more efficient and increase the likelihood of success for those farms, as well as provide very unique products for Wegmans and the consumer.
Yeah, I'll just jump in on that because just for everyone's knowledge, last year we had our first Wegmans Organic Farm Summit where we invited Cornell University and a few other folks to join us and talk about the future of agriculture. Spend 10 minutes, don't talk about the past, talk about what the future is going to look like for agriculture. And this is what Mike's talking about. It was a great event where people could get together and collaborate, and from the university side or the educational side to the grower side to even the private sector side, to understand how can we work together to make agriculture better for this region. And I thought it was an incredible opportunity for everyone to voice their thoughts and for us to walk away and say, yeah, there's a lot going on in our region and we're excited about it.
So if I could interject, so combined, it's our institutions of higher education, our rich heritage, our can-do culture, our manufacturing, our skilled workforce, and commitment to sustainability. This is the recipe for growth, innovation, and economic prosperity within our Grow New York region.
I'd like to thank our three panelists, Mike, Sheila, and EBEN. I really appreciate the time you took today to speak with me about innovation in the Southern Tier region. Thank you.
The Grow New York region is a place where food is made. In addition to agriculture, there's a rich tapestry of food processing businesses, from mom and pops to national industry leaders, that transform locally grown and imported crops and materials, extracting and creating ingredients and whole foods. I have some very thoughtful members of the food processing sector here with us today to tell us a little more about the role that food processing plays in the Grow New York region. First, I'll introduce ANIKA GIANFORTE. ANIKA?
Hi, Jen. Thanks for having me. As you mentioned, my name is ANIKA GIANFORTE. I'm a dairy processing specialist with Cornell's Dairy Foods Extension team. And a big part of the work that I do is supporting the dairy processing sector in whatever way we can. So we do that through workforce development. We do a lot of technical assistance and training, and we help existing companies and startups flourish in New York State.
Great, thanks. Chris Kirby?
Hey, Jen. Thanks for having me here today, and hi to all of the Grow New York teams who are watching. My name is Chris Kirby. I'm the founder of Ithaca Hummus. We are the fastest growing brand of hummus in America today. And we started right at the Ithaca Farmers Market in upstate New York. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. And ERIN TOLEFREE.
Hi, Jen. I'm ERIN TOLEFREE, Chief Operating Officer of Baldwin Richardson Foods. We have been in the Finger Lakes region for 20 years now and are a proud manufacturer of dessert toppings, shake syrups, fruit fillings, coffee flavorings, all the things that delight your foods right here in the upstate New York region. We service some of the world's largest food service, quick service restaurants, grocery chains, and retailers, and we're proud to be a part of this discussion today.
Great, thank you. All right, Chris, I'm going to start with you. As an innovator coming out of the Southern Tier, what can you tell us about the Ithaca Hummus journey, how you got started, how you scaled, and what's on your horizon?
Absolutely. So I started my career as a chef. Growing up, I loved food. I loved to cook. So I went to culinary school, and then after culinary school worked in restaurant kitchens. And I kind of had two realizations almost at the same time in my restaurant career. One was I realized that what was fueling my passion for food and cooking was the feeling that I got when I could cook something for someone and actually change the way they felt about an ingredient, or, change their relationship with food. I realized that that was my true passion. And at the same time, I also realized that the restaurant business wasn't really for me. And so I had to figure out how I could stay in the food business, grow the impact that I felt like I was having, and do it in a more sustainable way. And so I landed on the idea of creating a food product that would be sold in grocery stores, which to me at the time was a big, daunting thing to think about. And I had no business experience. I had no business education. So I made the decision to move back in with my parents, go to community college for a year, get the finance and accounting courses out of the way. And then I applied to the hotel school at Cornell. I was accepted. And when I got to Ithaca to start attending classes, I knew I wanted to start that business right away, but I didn't know what it would be. So I took a trip to the Ithaca Farmers Market and was really looking for white space. Like, where is there an opportunity to do something that's not being done that the community would love and that the community deserves? And having gone to so many farmers markets over the years, I was absolutely shocked that there was no local hummus producer. So a month later, I became the local hummus producer, and it was a success pretty early on. Like, people loved the product, and when you have a product that people love and they talk about, it tends to grow and spread quickly. So within the first 6 months, we had moved from the farmers market, expanded to local retailers, Wegmans in Ithaca. And since then, we've really just kind of grown incrementally, a little bit at a time, one retailer at a time, focusing on how can we grow by increasing our velocity and our turns in the store, as opposed to just expanding distribution way too quickly and not being able to support all of those new relationships and new partnerships. That's very much still how we operate today. We're in about 6,000 stores nationwide, growing steadily, where we double our volume just about every year. And as I mentioned earlier, we're the fastest growing hummus brand in the US. We own about 5% share in the category, and our ambitions are to dominate. So the market leader is Sabra today, and we'd like to take that seat at some point.
It's really energizing to hear that you can start off doing something at a locals farmers market and take it to the national level really in just a handful of years. I know they've been years of hard work, but it's pretty inspirational, and I think reflective of the kind of fertile ground that we have here in the region. Thanks for sharing your story. ERIN, thinking about Baldwin Richardson and the vast and exceptional range of services and products that you guys offer, can you help us focus in on where innovation fits in the Baldwin Richardson story?
Sure. So innovation really is the pipeline of growth for the business. When we entered into this market in 1997, pretty much for us to be successful with our partners, it was all about being a strong manufacturer. We had to be able to have good quality, on-time delivery, and a competitive price. And that was what success was at the end of the day. Today, through that time, we've seen so much change that really those expectations of yesterday are the green fees for us to be successful. What our customers are looking for and their partners is someone who really has a strong pulse on their consumers, understands their brand, can identify the gaps, and not just bring ideas of what we can do with a syrup or a fruit filling, but really be able to develop the whole new product offering, the whole menu for what the future looks like. And that's something that our company has been really geared for, because one of our core values is really having an entrepreneurial spirit. Being able to embrace new ideas. Sometimes they don't succeed. When we fail, we try to fail fast, but it's really been something that's been key to our success over a number of years. As a matter of fact, one of the amazing statistics that I often share with our employees, our team members, our customers is it's pretty interesting that if you look back any 3 years in our history, 30% of our revenue comes from new products that didn't exist in that time period before. So our pipeline is critical, and we invest in a large and diverse team of scientists, culinary staff, supply chain, because the innovation really can come from every area of our business to really narrow in on what are those sweet spot items that are going to be, a success for our customer. And when we hit it, it's the most exciting thing ever to see some of the new products that are developed right here in our facilities hitting Super Bowl commercials for new beverages, for, large manufacturers, large consumer packaged goods companies. And that's really what, our culture thrives off of. And it just sets us right back into a cycle to continue again. We think that, our size, our nimbleness really offer and position Baldwin Richardson Foods to be a good strategic partner for driving innovation with some of the largest food companies on the globe.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you use that word nimble, because that's what I was hearing. And it's, it's inspiring to think about a company that is both so well established, but also able to be responsive to the changing environment. So thank you. ANIKA, why don't you tell us a little bit about the challenges in dairy processing that you think technology and entrepreneurialism can address, sort of that role of innovation, its potential for dairy processing in our region?
Sure. So the dairy industry is a unique one. And in New York State, dairy is the #1 agricultural commodity in the state. And one of the really interesting things about milk as a commodity is it is the most regularly produced commodity, and it has one of the shortest shelf lives of any commodity out there. So when you think about that from an operational standpoint, you can't just shut off the tap of a cow's milk production. That takes time to taper off. And as a result, you have facilities that are operating 7 days a week, 365, which can represent some workforce challenges. On the other hand, you also have a product that, dairy men will refer that, and dairy women will refer to milk as nature's most nearly perfect food. And that's kind of a catchphrase you hear in the dairy industry. And the reason behind that is because milk is a really nutrient dense product, and you can do a lot with the components of milk. So you have fat, protein, the lactose, sugar in milk. And you have a lot of components that can be reworked to make really delicious products like cheese, yogurt, sour cream, whatever the case may be. So when you make those different products, you also end up with byproducts. So the whey industry, for example, is one that has really grown over the past 40 or 50 years. And it's a relatively new industry in the scope of the dairy industry, because when you have cheese, you also create whey. So one of the challenges overall is full utilization of all the different byproducts of dairy processing. Specifically, acid whey is an area where we haven't quite honed in on a perfect way yet to, pun intended, to deal with that issue. Acid whey in particular is a byproduct of Greek yogurt making or cottage cheese making. And it's just a hard byproduct to properly function into something that can also create value. So I think there's a huge opportunity for utilization of byproducts in a profitable way. And that can be really, really important for the dairy industry. A lot of dairy products that are produced have very low margins. It's very expensive to get into the dairy processing business. So when you have that high capital cost and relatively low margins, it's a barrier to entry. So solutions in that area could really be fruitful for the dairy industry. Right. The other main challenge that I see as far as technology goes, that would be a real opportunity, is because, like I mentioned, dairy is really regularly produced. It's a fast turnaround product. There are opportunities out there for technology to intervene, especially in older dairy processing facilities where you have certain lines that run in certain ways, of folding in technology to allow for greater traceability and greater food safety and food quality monitoring throughout that entire system. The dairy industry is facing a tremendous amount of regulatory pressure, just like the rest of the food industry is. And our tools need to develop to be able to get more real-time information and real-time traceability. So I think that there's a huge opportunity, things like farm-to-table type tools that can track, you have a container of milk, being able to scan a QR code and say, this is the farm that this milk originally came from, and having all of that dynamic data integrated into a system. It's definitely possible. All the different pieces of technologies are there, but having a system that integrates that and makes that helpful for either food safety, food quality, food traceability standpoints would be really, really great. So there's a lot of opportunity to add value to the dairy industry in terms of product development or technological solutions that could be really, really neat.
That's great. I know your specialization is in dairy processing, but as a member of Cornell Cooperative Extension, you have a view to other food processing and value add activities. Can you tell us a little bit about the resources available to innovators wanting to tap into dairy or other food processing in the region?
Certainly. So I'm a member of the Dairy Foods Extension team. And I guess I'll start with dairy and then we'll move more into food overall. So part of our program focuses a lot on giving people the information they need to know before they get into dairy processing and say, what did I get into? So part of that involves a lot of background information. We do a lot of training courses that folks who are new to the industry or employees of the dairy processing industry will take. So examples are basic dairy science and sanitation, food safety courses that are applicable to anyone in the food industry, not just the dairy industry, and things like that. Cornell is a tremendous research engine. As a land-grant university, we do put out quite a bit of information that is applicable to food safety, food science, processing technologies across the board. And then the other component here is that we do have our Geneva campus and the Center of Excellence at Cornell Agritech for food and agriculture. So that's a great resource for folks who are interested in entering the food industry or have already entered and are looking to either expand their options or help grow their business. So I think that there's really great information sources throughout the Cornell University and Cornell Extension systems. The other component that I always encourage folks to do is whether you're in central New York or other parts of New York, each region has an economic development center. So, if you're in central New York, the Central New York Regional Economic Development Center is definitely someone I would recommend building a relationship with. They often have different forms of funding, whether that be workforce development funding for helping train employees as you grow, or other opportunities that come up. So I always encourage folks to definitely connect with their local economic development centers. And then I think the third and really important piece here is upstate New York already has a really positive ecosystem for food and agriculture. So we're a really productive area of the state in terms of agriculture. And I think that is a huge advantage. So if you want to start a food processing business, you may already have an ingredient source or existing processing resources in the form of a co-packer or industry partner that you can work with to do that. And that's a tremendous asset that shouldn't be undervalued.
Great. Wonderful overview. Thank you so much. Chris, I'm going to go back to you. Can you tell us a little bit about the resources that helped Ithaca Hummus scale from the farmers market to the national level, those resources in the region that helped you get from here to there?
Absolutely. Yeah. So many. Starting, honestly, I'll try to go in chronological order here with the farmers market. Without the agricultural community and the farmers market being available, it would have been much more difficult to start the way that I did. It's great to start at a farmer's market because it's essentially a cash business. When you start getting into retail, you have terms and you have to fund inventory and process products into finished goods and then sell them and then wait to be paid. At a farmer's market, the cash flow cycle is much, much faster. So having that enabled me to fund growth outside of the farmer's market. So that's first and foremost, I think, number one. Cornell Cooperative Extension, when I needed to find a place to safely make my product, I went to Cornell's website and immediately found the cooperative extension and the list of commercial kitchens available and co-packers available, which at the time I wasn't quite ready for, but there was a great list of all the commercial kitchens available for rent. And I still refer people to that site today all the time. So farmers market, Cornell Cooperative Extension, the food science lab at Cornell in Geneva. I from the beginning have used them for shelf life testing. We still have a great relationship and utilize their services today. We've also got other great food businesses in upstate New York. Wegmans is on the retail side. LINDSEY Food and Beverage, who they're our partner and co-packer today. Just an abundance of companies and resources in the ecosystem that really make upstate New York and central New York a great place to start a food business.
Yeah, that's great. It seems to me that there's someone at the right size for you to work with every step of the way, from commercial kitchen space through to this enormous co-packer in LINDSEY. Great.
Absolutely.
ERIN, with Baldwin Richardson being a leader in food production, I'm interested to know what keeps the company here in the Finger Lakes. What resources make the Finger Lakes and the Grow New York region more generally a healthy food production ecosystem?
So it's much of what's just been said. In the time that we've been here, we've actually taken on 7 different expansions. And it's really this rich community between institutions like Cornell, the Economic Development Council, which of course has the food and agricultural team, and quite frankly, the food manufacturing community, and being able to tap into each one of those areas for different reasons. So one of our major expansions really got us heavily into dairy-based products, and we were able to heavily lean on the teams at Cornell to really bring us up to speed with the science, the regulatory environment, and helped us to successfully launch into a new platform. When we decided to expand from one facility to another, really being connected with the Economic Development Council, and specifically that food and ag team, gave us many meaningful connections in the community from, hey, we're going to try and do this. Well, there's a manufacturer in this county that you can go and look at and talk with and do some best practice sharing of what worked and what didn't, which certainly helped us to build the confidence in an area that we were investing in that was new. Being able to lean on other manufacturers to understand who are the best suppliers in the area that we can utilize to scale up new operations. So one of the things that I've found very helpful in the growth that we've achieved is being able, within a couple miles reach, to tap into educational resources to help us to come up to speed, critical suppliers and knowledge around, who can industrially make it happen to bring new equipment and things like that. And then how can the larger food community be a resource for learning and connection? So it's been a very welcoming environment to have come into over the past couple of decades, and it just continues to grow. It's been really exciting also now to not just be a company that's leaning on the resources, but can in fact be a resource to other up and coming food businesses in the area.
Yeah, that's great. That's really That's a lovely way to end this conversation. It really is, you know, a mutually beneficial ecosystem that we have here. I'm really grateful to the three of you for taking time to talk with me about food processing and reaching the folks that are thinking about applying for the Grow New York competition in future years, as well as this year's finalists. So thank you all very much for your time and your thoughtfulness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Grow New York region has a wealth of academic resources from institutions such as Hobart and William Smith, Ithaca College, Lemoyne, Syracuse, SUNY Binghamton, the SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry, and beyond. But there are specific programs that address food production and agriculture at RIT, Cornell, and SUNY Morrisville. And we're lucky enough to have the co-chairs of the food and ag working groups from the respective regions of Central New York, the Finger Lakes, and the Southern Tier here to talk to us about what those resources are. I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves and tell us about your day jobs before we get into the meat of the conversation. Bill, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I'm Bill STRASSBURG. I'm VP of Strategic Initiatives at Wegmans. I've been working at Wegmans for 43 years, had a wonderful career there. So one of my responsibilities involves connecting Wegmans people to the community, and in particular in the food and ag sector. So who are these folks? It could be suppliers, it could be co-packers, it could be higher ed institutions. In many cases, it's the key stakeholders and the entrepreneurs in the food and ag business. And that's how I've been connected directly to Grow New York since its inception.
Great, thank you. Jan?
Hello, my name is Jan NYROP. I'm a professor of entomology at Cornell University, associate dean in the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences, and the Goichman family director of Cornell Agritech, which is a Cornell CALS campus in Geneva, New York. I haven't been in my job quite as long as Bill STRASSBURG, but I am closing in on that 40-year mark. And over that time period, I have been afforded the opportunity to have a variety of roles within the college, ranging from a senior associate dean and a department chair to my current roles. But throughout those responsibilities, I have been involved with and had a keen interest in a core part of the college's mission, which is improving the lives and livelihoods of the citizens of New York. And we do a lot of that through economic development, and hence my involvement with Grow New York.
Great, thank you. And David?
Yeah, hi, name's Dave Rogers, president at SUNY Morrisville. I've been at the college now for about half of my higher ed career, which, so for about 20 years. Proud Cornell and SUNY alum. Most people are generally unaware that, while most people know that Ezra Cornell helped to found Cornell and donated his land as he was a farmer, most people are unaware that it was Liberty Hyde Bailey, who was a dean of the ag school at Cornell, that helped to establish Morrisville. He wanted to start what he called a farmer's college, and in 1908 we started instruction for people who were interested in agriculture. Co-educational from the beginning, so wanted to make sure people were aware of that. But since 1908 we've evolved to have associate and bachelor programs in a wide array of agriculture and technology fields. All in, we have about 3,000 students, either on our Morrisville campus or the Norwich campus in Chenango County, or our Equal Opportunity Center in Syracuse. And I'm pleased to report that we're working currently with system administration in Albany at starting our first master's in food and agribusiness. So we've come a long way since we worked with Liberty Hyde Bailey, but I think he'd be proud of what he sees here.
That's great. Thank you. Let's start with you, Dave. Can you tell us about the broad approach that Morrisville takes in supporting business development and economic growth in the region?
Sure, there's a variety of ways in which we do that. First and foremost, I'd have to acknowledge that I'm privileged to work with some very talented faculty who not only help to prepare the next generation of graduates, but they lend their talents and skills to a wide array of agencies and boards in our region, so that a variety of areas in this region can benefit from that expertise. In fact, two of our faculty, Sheila Marshman and Scott Colby, are finalists, are innovators, are mentors to the innovators that are finalists in this competition. In another capacity of my role, though, I serve in a variety of economic development positions, most notably for purposes here of Central New York REDC. The Central New York REDC, along with two other regions, was excited to begin this competition. I think it's a recognition of the primacy that agriculture and innovation is a priority for all of our regions, and certainly the finalists this year are a testament to the insight that we had in creating that competition. So all of us here are part of a larger ecosystem that seeks to recruit these early stage companies so that we can continue to diversify and grow our agricultural ecosystem for this region.
Great, thank you. Bill, how about you? What can you say about RIT's role in economic growth?
Well, I'm proud to be connected to RIT. They stay active in supporting business development in many ways. Starts with the president, starts with the top, Dave Munson. He's on the Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development Council, the Rochester Chamber of Commerce, Greater Rochester Enterprise Board, and our ROC 2025 board. So he's active across the board, if you will. Secondly, the students and the faculty have many connections to private industry. And they do food research in the Center for Sustainable Packaging, for instance. They have the Pollution Prevention Institute that is active in a lot of different food and ag issues. And they have every student get into a co-op program with companies like Wegmans that get their hands-on experience for all of their students. So there's a lot of activities amongst the students, faculty, and the executives in regards to business development.
Great. Jan, how about your perspective on Cornell's role, the institution's philosophical vision towards startups?
Yeah, so Cornell University and Cornell CALS, College of Agricultural and Life Sciences, they are New York's land grant institution. Now, for some people that will resonate and provide a very specific meaning. For others, they kind of will wonder, well, what in the world is a land grant institution? And we could spend a lot of time talking about that. But the most salient part of being a land grant institution for the conversation that we're having now is that Cornell and CALS are explicitly charged with advancing the lives and livelihoods of the state citizens through the teaching, research, and public service that we engage in. So it is a very, very specific mandate. It is something that the university and the college, the faculty, student, staff embrace very, very thoroughly. And it is somewhat unique to have an institution like Cornell, which is a Tier 1 Ivy League research university and also a land grant. So as a result, you have the fundamental research that spawns new ideas, and you have the research that goes to solve problems that entrepreneurs inevitably encounter, either in the production or the distribution or the refinement of their ideas. And as David and Bill have said, we contribute to a talent pipeline of students that are also very, very valuable for entrepreneurs. And equally important is that we are part of Cornell Cooperative Extension, which provides both a service resource and an educational resource in every county of the state, covering a range of topics from nutrition to farming to entrepreneurship to pollution prevention. And this is a huge resource that entrepreneurs can tap into.
That's great. I'm going to stay with you, Jan. Can you tell us about a few of the key resources at Cornell that support entrepreneurs working in the food and ag space?
Yeah, and they range from the very, very specific and targeted resources that are directed right at entrepreneurs to enable entrepreneurs to find the resources and the connections they need to be successful. And these include the New York Center of Excellence for Food and Agriculture, the Rev Ithaca Startup Works, the Cornell Center for Regional Economic Advancement, and some other incubators on the Cornell campus in the biological sciences and materials and engineering sciences. These are programs that are specifically targeting entrepreneurs and helping entrepreneurs to succeed. There are also a broad set of services that are available that entrepreneurs can tap into to solve particular problems. And these includes things like the Cornell Food Venture Center, food pilot plants in both Geneva and Ithaca, the Cornell Craft Beverage Institute, and the Institute for Food Safety. And I've already mentioned Cornell Cooperative Extension, but Cornell Cooperative Extension again provides these educational resources and expertise, which is meant to synthesize research being both produced at Cornell and elsewhere into a form that people can readily use every day in their lives. So if an entrepreneur faces a challenge in either identifying a resource, making a connection, or solving a technical problem, Cornell Cooperative Extension can handle that. When we think of more general resources, obviously you think about faculty and you think about students, right? And so faculty have and will continue to engage with entrepreneurs to solve specific problems, to look at feasibility analyses, and even to share in development of concepts as they move forward. And many of our students have been hired by entrepreneurs in the region to fill talent needs.
Great, thank you. Bill, can you speak to some of the resources at RIT?
Love to. So RIT started an incubator called Venture Creations. It isn't necessarily specifically targeting food and ag, but there are lots of food and ag entrepreneurs that are part of it, including two of the current finalists from 2020 Grow New York cohort. That's Leap Foods, who's a graduate of Venture Creations, and Crystal Creek Organics, who is currently there. The RIT is also directly involved with NextCore, which is the high-tech Rochester incubator that's operated by the University of Rochester. And that helps with the entrepreneurship and the startups that want to get involved with food and ag, indirectly or directly. And it inspires the community to be more innovative and create jobs in key sectors like the food and ag sector.
Terrific. Dave, how about those resources at SUNY Morrisville?
Yeah, like Bill and Jan described, there's lots of different ways that an entrepreneur might align with some of the different resources. So I'll just tell a few of them, I guess. It could be a credit course in precision farming as part of the ag business. Students there learn about how to gather through sensors, data information with drones that might either improve some form of application to enhance production. Could be a non-credit workshop that we do for people interested in planting hemp or learning more about how to be more productive in harvesting hemp. In fact, in response to the burgeoning expansion of cannabis and hemp production, we started a minor in our horticulture program for cannabis. We have a food incubator aligned with the campus. Nelson Farms produces and packages and ships hundreds of different products, food-related products, and is an important part, I think, of the Taste NY partnership. Each year we have students that make a variety of products that I'm obliged to taste, and I'm happy to say that most of them are pretty good. You invite a college president to a forum like this, and you're going to hear about new buildings. We are building a new Four Seasons farm with a grant from our Central New York region. A consolidated funding application was approved. We're going to be building a controlled environmental agriculture facility. As you know, the Central New York region has a priority for CEA outreach. In fact, it's no secret that one of the largest indoor farming facilities is a 10-minute drive from Morrisville. 60 acres under glass, another 40 acres planned. We believe that this region could benefit significantly. So that's why we're building this CEA on campus to determine the ongoing viability of that exciting new area. We're also building a new alternative fuels facility that's going to house our ag engineering program and renewable energy program, along with a new field-based sustainability program. So we're confident that that new facility will not only house those programs, but lend itself to programming that can serve as an important outreach for farmers and agricultural interests that want to respond to climate change challenges. So finally, I mentioned, it's worth mentioning always as a president, a master's degree in food and agribusiness that is going to prepare the next generation of leaders who are going to have to find ways, creative and innovative ways to leverage technology to ensure greater safety and efficiency of our supply chain everywhere. So excited to be a part of this larger ecosystem and looking forward to working with those 20 finalists.
Great, thank you. I'm going to stay with you, Dave. Let's close out by hearing a case study about some innovation that came out of Morrisville.
Yeah, so I'm going to treat this with some poetic license, I guess. It's true that every president has some stories about individuals, alums that, so I've got my own set of such stories. Frankly, there's hundreds of stories from the Nelson Farms incubator that are some pretty fun stories to share. I'm especially proud of the 2 graduates that infused beer into ice cream, and it's not only tasty, but it's been sold in Sherburne and at the State Fair. I also have to proudly lay claim to Morrisville's alums, two Ag and Market Commissioners, the current director of the State Fair, and there's an alum who decades ago was an ag engineering major who went to medical school, and he actually was the person who invented the pumps and valves used in the first heart transplant in the United States. So you never quite know where some of these connections might lead. And I guess rather than tell more stories about what has happened, let me just speak frankly to the 20 finalists and say that we're ready. This region has a rich history of innovation and development in agricultural arena, and I don't think that any of these 20 finalists could find a better arena suited. There are academic institutions, there are economic development specialists who stand at the ready to help those individuals, and dare I say it, I think they can plant and grow their businesses in this region unlike any other in this country or even across the globe. And I hope that some of these finalists decide to locate here because they can then be part of this rich ecosystem and contribute to it.
That's great. Thank you for those inspiring words.
Yeah, sure.
Bill,
that's what I do.
You're very good at it. Bill, do you have a story you want to share about some innovation that came out of RIT?
Sure. There's lots of companies that have come out of RIT, but one of the more interesting ones that came about recently is a company called Hyperspectral Imaging. And they are using sensors in drones to determine vineyard moisture stress. The drone technology is going to be used more and more in agriculture and in food production in the future. And it's an industry that has grown exponentially in the past few years and will continue to grow that way in the next few years. We do believe that the costs of the sensors and the drones are going to drop dramatically, and there's going to be a lot of use for that in the future. And so we're happy to be involved directly in all of that technology and in that sector.
Great, thank you, Bill, and thank you for the work that you do to kind of personify Wegmans' leadership in this space. Jan, let's bring it home. Can you tell us a story about some innovation that came out of one of Cornell's programs?
It's almost like David and Bill, we had this whole plan, this conversation plan, because they've like set this thing up perfectly for me at this point. So I'm not going to focus on a particular company as an example, but I'm actually going to use a flourishing industry which consists of many entrepreneurs. More than 50 years ago, Dr. Constantine Frank, a vineyardist and a winemaker, began to experiment with growing vinifera grapes in the Finger Lakes region. And he looked to Cornell for assistance in being able to do so because they felt that unless you could actually grow vinifera, which most of our varietal wines come from, you won't have a successful wine industry. Well, today that wine industry in New York is valued at about $7 billion annually. There are hundreds of wineries, tens of thousands of tourists, I don't know the exact number, likely come to New York for wines. And of course, wines are not just grown, or grapes are not for wine, are not just grown in the Finger Lakes, they're grown in Long Island, they're grown throughout the state. Many institutions and individuals contributed to the success of that industry, but I firmly believe, and I think most people understand this as well, that the industry would not be successful without the engagement of Cornell researchers, Cornell Cooperative Extension, and Cornell students who have gone on to be entrepreneurs in the wine industry. And so that support has been in the form of breeding new varieties of grapes, in improved management of grapes, in effective enology, in having service that supports the grape industry, and in understanding the economics of this industry. David mentioned that there is a rich ecosystem in which food and agriculture entrepreneurs can flourish. The wine industry is a perfect example of that. Bill mentioned that technology is going to become increasingly important in the production of grapes. Technology is going to become increasingly important not only in the production of grapes, but in the growing of a variety of other crops and in the effective distribution of food products and making sure that food products are safe. The richness of this ecosystem, at least from the standpoint of wine and grapes, is, I think, illustrated by the fact that we are in the process now of constructing a $70 million grape innovation center to house USDA Agricultural Research Service scientists and Cornell scientists dedicated to the improvement of grape vines and their production in New York and throughout the world. And this will be constructed on the Agritech campus. I would love to rename New York to not the Empire State, but the Food State. I think that New York has the resources, including the academic institutions you've been introduced with, to be a major food producer for the east portion of North America, and in some respects the world. There's lots of opportunities for entrepreneurs to contribute to that quest. And I hope that what we've communicated to you entices you to join us.
Thank you. That's also super inspiring. This has been great. It's a lot to fit in. We've got a real depth of different institutions and organizations and programs in the region, and it's a lot to try to convey to the finalists. But you guys did a wonderful job, and I'm really appreciative of your time. And thanks for sharing your view on our ecosystem of knowledge, research, and service as seen from the academic institutions. Our hope is that the conversations you heard here spark further curiosity about the region and ideas about how you could prosper here. Special thanks to the group of people who gave their time to talk with us about what makes the Grow New York region a food and agriculture powerhouse. Thanks again for joining us.